Okay, here we are. I want to move this 8-foot bed into the center here. And I think I explained this in an earlier video, but we'll do a quick recap. So I don't like this 8-foot bed being against the wall because I can't reach against any of the plants that are planted along the back side. Originally I was going to make it basically a monocrop where everything would be planted at one end and be harvested far on the other end. But I'm growing too many varieties, so I want to move the 8-foot into the middle. So that will leave me with a 4-foot, a little 4-foot aisle, and then the 8-foot would be about through here, another little aisle here, and then a last 4-foot bed. But I want to keep the system running because it's now spring and I have my strawberry plants that look horrible here, but they'll get cleaned up. I want to get this bed going while I get this one moved. So what the plan is to take the drain, which is just off camera, which is feeding this bed, and run the pipe all the way along here and fill this bed. So this bed will be all by itself now. And I'll put the pump into here and pump it back to the fish. And while I get things going in this bed, I can then finish draining this one out, clean it up, dismantle part of it. It's hard to see, but way down here there's an electrical outlet sticking up out, so I can't just drag this across the floor. So I have to dismantle part of it, get it up and over that electrical, and then slide it into its final spot. And then I'll tie all the plumbing together. So that's the plan. So you're gonna watch me probably pull what little hair I have left out, trying to get this bed moved over into here. So wish me luck. So thankfully on this bed, when I had originally planned it out, I had put a T into it and a valve is here. So I'll be able to just take this piece of piping, run it over there, close off this valve, open up this one to get the flow to head that way, and then I'm gonna cut this off here and we'll just abandon that, and then that will disconnect the bed from everything. Then to finish off this temporary line, I already put in one of the previous videos this 3-inch bulkhead fitting, so I can thread in this adapter into it. I'll put a T onto it and then the pipe will connect in, and I'll cap off this end of the T because eventually this line will head back up and what comes from the fish will end up in here. So when it's all done, this side will get cut off and isolate it from the other bed. We'll prop this up on a couple of bricks, create a nice tripping hazard in here, but like I said, this is temporary. I guess everything in here seems to be temporary as I keep changing my mind on how I want it set up. Instead of cementing all these pieces together, I'm just gonna use this rubber coupling. That way, when I take it apart, it's easier to take apart and I can reuse some of these pipes for other things down the road. On one of my previous videos, I installed this bridge siphon to interconnect the two beds, and since we're gonna get rid of this bed, we don't need this anymore. So I'm just gonna let some air into this and that will stop the siphon from running, and then eventually I'm just gonna pull all this out. And in this 4-foot bed where this new line comes in, I gotta take this cap off that I originally put in on when I built this bed. Now we're ready to redirect the water over to that bed. We can take this one, close this down, cap this off because we aren't going to need it. I was just reviewing some of my footage and I think I've probably said temporary a couple dozen times at this point, so I think you'll get the point that everything that I'm doing with this till after this bed is moved is temporary. And this is just so I can keep the system running while things get moved. Now that I'm done with this connection to the bed, we can cut this off and be done with it. And then I can raise up the rest of this pipe. Now on the other end of the bed, I'll put the pump, again, temporary, but buried down under here somewhere is the return line for the 8-foot bed, and it's pumping water through here along the side of the whole greenhouse and back to the fish tank. So we're going to install the pump here, cut into this line, and continue using it for the time being on just this one bed. So here's the line, it comes down here, makes an elbow, so it's got to be around in here somewhere. This whole thing seems like a big hack, but it will do what I need it to do to keep the system running this spring while I work on the rest of it. Alright, we're about ready for action. Turn on this pump again. The fish will be happy. It was only offline for about an hour, so their water hasn't been circulating in their tank, but they'll survive for the hour. The water's nice and cold. During the summer I would have thrown in some air stones or something into the tank, but this is fine for now. I also have a pump running in the other bed to drain that out and to fill this one up, so in an hour or so this will be all filled up and ready for action. I didn't film it, but I got all the beds cleaned out, drained the water, cleaned out any sludge that may have accumulated. And now it's time to move everything. A couple hours I actually have a crew coming to help me move the beds, but my main problem is right here, this electrical that's sticking up. I can't just slide the beds over. So what I'm going to do is remove the liner from here, essentially roll it back into this section, and then cut the frame at that outlet so that we can take the whole bed, slide it over, take the far bed and slide that over, and then I'll reconnect them afterwards. But I want to try to make this as easy as possible because it's just a bunch of volunteers coming, and I don't want to waste their time. I had my crew come down and help me slide this over, and I didn't film it. Might be on the security camera, so we'll see. But now that it's in here, we're gonna straighten up the bed and we'll be good to go. Before I refill the bed, this is the 24 nozzle infusionator line that I installed a few years ago in this bed. And what's interesting about it is that the other side of the bed, you can see a lot of iron stains in it about halfway through. So these are stirring up everything pretty well the first 4 feet, and then some of the solids were settling out on the other side. So once I get this fully up and running, I'll install another set on the other side of the bed, and that will keep most everything from settling out. While I'm working on the plumbing part, I might as well start filling this. This holds a little over 5,200 gallons, so it's going to take a while to fill this up. I do have well water, so I don't have to wait for any dechlorination or anything. The water's really good here, so it's not hard. It's basically perfect just as it is. Now, what seems to you a minute ago, I had installed that pump to circulate the water from the original bed. It has been a couple of weeks since I've finally gotten around to trying to get some of this finished up. So the moved bed is now full of water, and you can see it's turning a lovely shade of green because I don't have it fully covered. I've dug a trench to interconnect the two beds and did some of the plumbing. I usually don't like to go underground with my plumbing, but because this is in an aisleway, I didn't want to create a tripping hazard between the two beds, so we're going under. It's backfilled with sand, so if something needs to be repaired or something, it's easy to dig it out. So I voted for going underground with that. So now we'll just take that pump out, finish interconnecting, and then we'll move down to the other side and reinstall the pump and get this going again. I apologize for the hazy camera work. It's been raining for a couple of days and the humidity in here is basically 100%. So it's everything is fogging up. I can't keep my lens clean. You may have noticed I've been using a whole bunch of these rubber couplings. I'm just finding it easier to do assembly, and then if I have to do maintenance I can pull them off. Originally when I did the whole system, everything was just glued together, and it proved to be a problem if you had to access any of your plumbing. So it's just easier to use these. Plus I also used to use gate valves, which I'm basically getting rid of. They work fine, but I actually found them to be quite tempting for kids to play with when they were coming for a tour or something. And I think I spent more time readjusting them after a tour than I ever used them for anything else. So instead of doing that, when I need to close off a section, it's just easier to put a cap on into the threadings of the bulkhead fitting and then take it on and off. Looks like the new bed over there is a little bit higher water level than this one. This is down a couple of inches, so it's just sort of back flushing into this for now. No harm, we'll just even out the two levels once it's all set. While it's doing that, I'm going to start backfilling the trench. This is the return line that I cut down on the other end of the bed. This sends all the water back to the fish tank, and basically it ran along the entire length of this 4-foot bed, and the rest of the plumbing is going to get abandoned. I'm going to cut this and tie into it so I can put the pump in on this side of the bed. It's sort of hard to see with this temporary 3-inch drain line in here, but I installed on the outlet of the grow bed this 3-inch pipe. It has a 2-inch T on it, and I have that capped off. That will go to a future pump for my second fish tank when I install that. Then I just reduced this down to a 2-inch out of the end, and that fits in nicely with the pump here. Now this pump is looking pretty grimy, but this is the original pump that I used when I set up the greenhouse. So it's 5 years old or so, and I've been very happy with it. I'll get a screenshot of the label so you can see what the model is. But this is a 12,000 liter per hour. Maximum wattage is 85 watts, so it's a very low power draw. And for this setup, I'm actually running it at about 75% of its power. So I'm maybe drawing like 65 watts to run the circulation for these beds. Alright, we're all set to get the fish some fresh water again. It did only take me an hour or so, including the filming, to get all this done, so it's not too bad for them to be offline. So I think that's about it for this phase of the project. It's spring now, and I really need to get these beds planted out. The strawberries are starting to blossom, and I gotta even clean out the dead stuff from there. So the flow comes through this temporary drain line right through here into this first bed, And again, that's temporary. I say that a lot these days, but eventually this will just go away, and when I get my next fish tank installed, it'll drain directly into this bed on this side. And then when I do the other bed on the other side, the existing tank will drain into that one. So the water then flows down through this bed, to the 4-foot bed, down underground, back into this bed, and then that works its way up to this drain line with the pump on it, which then pumps it underground and back to the fish tank. So it's a nice, seemingly simple loop, but it gets the job done. Thanks for watching.